Joseph Kramer. Today's date is December 14th, 1995. The survivor is Joseph Kramer. The interviewer is Jeff Lewis. The interview takes place in Camarillo, California, in the United States. This interview will be conducted in English. Today's date, today's date is December 14th, 1995. The survivor next to me is Joseph Kramer. We're in Camarillo, California. My name is Jeff Lewis. Could you tell me your name, please?
My name is Joseph Kramer.
And when were you born?
October the 28th, 1924.
Where were you born?
In Miskolc, Hungary.
And how old are you today?
71.
Joseph, could you tell me a little bit about your village where you grew up, Miskolc?
Well, I don't know too much about Miskolc. I was 5 years old when my father died. So actually, I just remember very little thing from Miskolc. I went right away when my father died. I went to Bodrog-Keresztúr, to my grandmother. That's where I was brought up.
Well, tell me about the family that you do remember then.
Yeah.
A mother,
Well,
grandmother.
I have a mother. When my father died, my mother, we went, the whole family, I had a brother and two sisters. We went the whole family to my grandmother. She brought us up. I mean, as from 5 years old, my sister was, I had my older sister, she was 1.5 years older than me.
What was her name?
Her name was Lillian. And I had another sister, she was 1 year younger than me. She was Margaret was her name. And I had a brother who was also, no, my brother was 1 year younger than me. My other sister was 2 years younger than me. My brother's name was Zoltán. So we went to Bodrog-Keresztúr, and it was a tough life because my mother left us. She came out to the United States when I was 6 or 7 years old. And my grandmother was an old woman already. She must be around 75 almost, yes, something like that. But we had also a family there where we lived together, an uncle and an aunt, and they had about 14 children. And actually we had 2 houses and 1 big yard. That's where we were all brought up. Had a nice life there, but still, you know, when you haven't got a mother and father, then it's pretty bad. So, but it was a very religious, my uncle and aunt and the whole family was very religious. I wore pious, and I went to the cheder, and we really was brought up. Shabbos, we were, every morning and in the afternoon we went to shul, every day. So it was pretty tough. Like we went to the school there. We used to go 5 o'clock in the morning. First we went to the Hebrew school, to the cheder, till 7:30. And 8 o'clock we went to the regular school, to the how do you call that? Public school, yes. And we were there till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And at lunchtime we were away for a half an hour. We went home for lunch. And 3 o'clock we were, and then after 3 o'clock we went straight back to the cheder. We were there till 7 o'clock. So it was kids, but we were 6, 7, 8 years old, and we were going to school with the Hebrew and public school about 12 hours a day. So it was tough. But still, you know, we were young kids, so we had a big family there, so we were very happy otherwise. We had sometimes an occasion when, let's say, for instance, it was Mother's Day, and in the school they made some kind of a mothers get-together. And I remember one year my sister, she had to sing something about mothers, you know, and she started to cry there. And all of a sudden, I was in with the other kids there. I started to cry too, so they took us home because we didn't have no mother. So it was, you know, those little things that was very tough for us when we were brought up. But otherwise, we had a nice life there as kids. Then we went to when once I start to get older, then I start to avoid things like when I was 10 years old. We had actually we were farmers there. My uncle and aunt, they had farmland, and they had a mine, stone mine there where they were building the houses from there. So I went to work in the stone mine, but not as a laborer, but just in the office when we were 10, 11 years old. So that's what it was. But we had tough because there in Hungary, as Jewish kids, we had a lot of problems with the anti-Semitic, you know, as the Christian kids, especially let's say when it came to Christmas time, and they were really, we were afraid from the Christians because they stoned us, and wherever they could catch a Jew, they were really hitting us and things like that. But we did it, we hit them back too, but still it was Hungary, in my town, it was very bad for the Jewish people. Even though we had about, I would say about 120 families there, so it was a small town, but it was a lot of Jews there, you know. So that's what it was my life, you know.
Do you remember the Jewish holidays? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, sure. We had everything. Oh, it was beautiful when it came to a Pesach, a Seder night. It was gorgeous there. Especially with a big family like that. We had about, in a table, we had about 20 people always, you know. And as kids, I remember when it came to as the Manishtana, we were sleeping already because for them it took so long. Those religious people, it took a long time till they made the whole Seder, you know. And and also.
How about the Afikoman?
Oh, we never got to it to steal it because it was too late already. And it was a lot of nice holidays, like for instance Purim. We used to go to different houses to, they called it Purim Spielen. We dressed up like Homen, and we went and they gave us or a few pennies or some cake or something, you know, this kind of thing. And we had our fun there because, as I said, we were farmers. And when it came to corn, or when we went, the crops came in. The harvest came in, and we were really working on it. So it was also a lot of fun. Also, we had a grapevine. We made our own wine there. My grandmother was a pretty rich woman. My grandfather died when I didn't know him. He died before I was born. That's why my name is after him, you know. But that's what it was.
What was your grandmother's name?
My grandmother was Toby Taub. That was her. She was a fine woman. You can imagine, she took in 4 children, 4 little children. I mean, the oldest was 6.5 years old. 6.5, 5, 4, and I think my sister was 2 years old. And my mother left us because it was some things there. She probably, well, I don't know if I should say it, but I say it. She fell in love with a Christian guy there, and that was a very big thing there, a Jewish girl to fall in love with a Christian guy. So they talked her into it that she should come out to the United States. My uncle and aunt, because it was a, you know, craze there. I mean, that Jewish girl should. So that's what she did. That's why she had to come out to the United States. And that's why we were there by ourselves there. You know. So.
Did you have, were most of your friends Jewish?
Oh yeah, it was nobody else, just Jewish people. We went to Cheder together, like it was a school, like Cheder it was, we went about 30 kids in one cheder. And we had a rabbi there who taught us how to, the Hebrew, you know.
Do you remember your rabbi's name?
Ginsler was one. I had about three because as you get older, we went to a different rabbi. So I remember it was three of them. One was Ginsler. Oh, I can't remember.
Do you remember your bar mitzvah?
Yeah, well, that was a funny thing about bar mitzvah too. You know, there they didn't make no parties there for kids. They just, Saturday, they just called them up to the Torah and after they were lining. And that day, when it was my bar mitzvah, supposed to be, it was a wedding too. And they didn't know whom to call up to the Torah for them after. So the rabbi had to decide who should be called up to the Torah. So they decided that it was more important for the young kid, the 13 years old, that he should read them after than to the man. So that was a funny thing there. No, we didn't have our bar mitzvah in those days. Then it was over here in the United States. Here to make a big party and everything. There it was just they took some cake to the shul, you know, a kiddush, and that's it, you know. But it was really funny that day because it happened at what I said just now. Yeah.
Tell me about the first time that you understood what was going on in Europe with Germany and what that meant to you.
Well, it was actually I was already. I was in. Well, it wasn't Germany alone. It was us, the Hungarian people. They were very against the Jews. As I was grown up, that's the way it was there. The life was that you were a Jew, you knew you were a Jew, and they hated Jews there. In school, like for instance, we wanted to go to the Hebrew school there because we could make a Hebrew school in that time. But the government didn't allow that. We had to go with the Christian together. And we had to say things like, for instance, Jesus and everything, things like that, that we didn't, they didn't, like us, we were very religious, and Saturdays, they even wanted to make us go to Saturday in the school. So we knew we were Jews, and they were always against the Jews there in Hungary. They were very anti-Semitic people there. Yes.
When did it go from bad to worse?
Well, that was already when I was in Budapest. Well, first.
So let's go
okay.
back a little bit.
I go back a little bit. When I was about 14, yeah, I was 14. My mother wrote to us that I should become a baker because a baker trade is very good in the United States. So my grandmother didn't want it. I should be a laborer because she used to tell me, wieso heißt Haskell Kramer's Eineke should sein a baker, a laborer. Somehow the Jewish people were all business people and they learned they were all rabbis and you know. So, but finally they decided that my mother wrote to them that if I want to come out to the United States, I have to have a trade. That's not enough for me that I should go to just to learn Hebrew and stuff like that. So when I was about 14 years old, I went to a different town. The name was Sárospatak. It was about 30, 40 miles from Bodrog Keresztúr. And I went to it was a Jewish family. They were bakers, and I went there and I signed a contract with them for 3 years that I'm going to learn the trade. And that's where I was, and it was very hard because it was hard work. I remember the first day when they put on my back about 50 pounds of bread in a something. It was like we had to carry it, and we had to deliver that bread. And I was 14 years old. It was more than 50 pounds. So I started to cry for myself. But I never forget that day. But the life went on, and I did it. And we were there. I was there almost, about 2.5 years, because then the war broke out already in Poland, and Germans were already went into Poland. And we didn't have no flour. For the Jewish bakers, they didn't give no more flour. So they couldn't, they had to close up. So that's where the time when they let me go free, and I became a baker. They gave me papers that I was ready to be a baker. So after that, it was, I don't remember the year, I went up to Budapest. It must to be around, around 1940, something like that, when I went up to Budapest.
So you're 16 years old now?
I was 17 years old at that time.
Excuse me.
17 years old. Yeah, I was 14 in 2.5, 3 years. I was around 17 years old. So I went up to Budapest and I find a job. I lived in an apartment there with about one room. We were sleeping there about 6 or 8 people. Well, that's the way it was in Budapest. Nobody had apartments like here. As, you know, we had to pay very little money there, but we didn't have the money because in Budapest was not so, a worker didn't make nothing. And the inflation was so bad, whatever, let's say I made $50, let's say today, next week the $50 wasn't worth nothing anymore. It was right in the wartime already, so it was very bad there. So I was there for about 3.5 years in Budapest. I was in a Sajma Shabbos bakery working because I wasn't religious. Somehow I got away from the religion because I was brought up by myself, and you know how it is. But still in all, my family, I had a family member in Budapest that he got me a job in a Sajma Shabbos bakery. So I was working there in a bakery for about 3 years. And then...
Tell me about the apartment, and you said you lived with 8 people. Tell me about some of the other conditions. Was there clothing available to you?
No, we really had, we couldn't buy no clothes because when I wanted to buy clothes, but the money, whatever we made, the money, it was, the inflation was so bad that today I made $50, tomorrow it was nothing worth anymore. So when I got the wages, I got every day the wages, whatever I made, they paid me right there. Otherwise, I couldn't buy nothing. Yeah. So you know, if you want to save up $1, it was no use to save it because tomorrow it was nothing worth anymore. That's the way they live. Well, I lived there we said about 8 people lived there. It was a horrible, horrible apartment there, full of cockroaches and stuff like that. But we couldn't afford better, so that's the life it was there. It was pretty bad. Like you couldn't sleep because the cockroaches were so bad. I mean, what can you do? But that's the way the life was.
Now, was this when there was the ghetto, or was
No,
this...
that was before the ghetto yet. Before the ghetto, no. Then it was also, so the Germans, when the Germans came in, I remember that day, we went somewhere, and all of a sudden, big trucks came with German people, and it was horrible that day there. I mean, we knew that something is very bad there.
In what year is this now?
That was in 40, end of 43 or in the beginning of 44.
Well, tell me, when you were living in Budapest, were
Yeah.
you able to keep abreast of the events of the war through newspapers, through a radio?
No, not really, because we were young. I mean, somehow we really did not, we didn't care about the war. Like I was 17, 18 years old, so we really didn't. But once we got problems where you know, as Jews, then we already knew that the Germans were bad to the Jews, so sure, then it was problems.
No. Did you have a social life when you were 17, 18, living in Budapest?
Well,
Did you date?
social life, not really. We never went dancing or. I knew my wife. Then already. She lived in the same building than I did, but except her apartment, she lived with her uncle and aunt, and some. I think a couple. 2 aunts and an uncle. I think. And that was a better, they kept it clean. I mean, there was different than my apartment was actually rented for people, you know, so it was a different there than it was in mine. So I knew my wife already then.
How did you meet her?
Well, just like that, she lived next door. And I was a very shy person that day, that time. I was so shy, I was afraid to talk to girls. But somehow they introduced us wrong, so that's how I met her. And then we were going out together. Out, where did we go? For a walk. Or we went to a park. That's it. I mean, we didn't have money to go places or stuff like that,
So you were starting to tell me about the day the Germans came. Tell me what that day was for you.
Well, that day we knew that something happened, but then in about a week or 2 weeks after, a law came out that all the Jews a certain age had to report to a certain place. Let's say, for instance, I was around 18 years old, or they had a date when you were 18, you had to report this and this date. So we had to go. I was about, I think I was around 20 years old at that time. Yeah, about 20. I had to report to it was a city, Hot One. That was the name of the city where I had to report. So they took us there, and we went there, and for like a labor camp, that's why they didn't take us as soldiers because we were Jew, but as in the labor camp. They sent us back to Budapest. From Hot One, we came back to Budapest, about 300 or 400 people.
How did you travel in those days?
I don't remember. Probably they sent us back with a train. We came back from, it was about 50 miles away from Budapest, and we came back, the whole 300 people with a train, and they put us up. It was, they put us up, I remember the name of that street, it was Vörösmarty utca 29, that was the name of where this about 300 people were together. And it was actually a labor camp there. It was in a big building where it was a lot of rooms there. I think it was a college or a school years before. And in each room we were sleeping there about 20, 30 people. So we had about 300 people there. And our job was there when they were bombing Budapest. Then we went to clean up, or even if it was dead people there, we find dead people to pull them out from the grave there where they were buried.
From the rubble.
From the rubble, yeah. That was our job. And those days we had to wear already the yellow. It was a yellow stripe.
Star?
Yellow star or a yellow ribbon there, ribbon. And a lot of times, let's say if I wanted to go out somewhere, I didn't wear it. Because let's say I wanted to see my wife. My wife lived also, that time already, I think my wife she was in a ghetto already that time.
But she wasn't your wife at this time?
No, she was my girlfriend that time, So, and I wanted to see her once in a while, so I couldn't go out with a stripe, with a star, because if they would see me there alone like this, the Germans would grab me. So I just didn't wear my star, and I went out. But it was very dangerous to do it, because if the Germans find out that you are a Jew, they shoot you right there. In fact, I saw not once that they were shooting their Jewish people whom they find that they are Jewish. I remember once I walked down, and all of a sudden there I saw a shot there. They killed a Jew because they find out he was a Jew. So it was very dangerous to go out without a star.
Did you see other examples of that?
Yeah, I saw it was about 2 or 3 times that I saw that they shot their Jewish people without a stars. They didn't ask no question. Once they find out, you know what they did? You had to put on your pants. And once you pull down your pants and you were martyred, you were a Jew. That's it. Then that's the way they find out if you are a Jew. And they find out that you then they shoot you right there on the street. I saw it about 3 times. I saw that happen. It was very bad those days. Then it happened. I think, I think and then also my wife supposed to be.
Tell me her name.
Her name is Edith. It was Edith Stark, and they took her away. And we were still in Budapest at the same place, but they took her some. I don't remember. They took her to a place where. How you call? Well, anyway, I don't know the name, but it was where they made Sigel.
Dresses?
No, I don't remember. So, but I find out that she had to report also to a camp like this, and they took her away. And they were walking, I mean, they had to go they were going different places. And finally I find out once that they took her out to Germany. They were going to take them out to Germany. They were walking to Germany. And when I find that out, somehow I find out that it was that I could get some kind of a paper. How do you call that? Wallenberg. We find out that we could get some kind of a paper, and we could bring her back with that kind of a paper. It's like from Sweden, something like that. And finally I got some kind of a paper, and somebody who went that direction, I gave him the papers, but it was somehow too late already that she went through that I couldn't get it. And so they took her away then.
Why didn't you get one for yourself?
Well, at that time, I was safe yet. They didn't take me that time yet, you know. And it was, well, I wasn't thinking of myself those days, you know. And somehow I didn't know that they're going to take me out there too. But about a month later, I think it was sometime in November, beginning in December, they packed us up. All of a sudden, we had to go. All about 300 people. They took us to the train, and we had to pack up everything. And they loaded up us, about 80 people, to a cattle car, you know. Yeah. And a lot of people then disappeared from there. I mean, they went away, they ran away. You were able to run away as you were walking to the station. They weren't watching you as much. So, but you were afraid, you know. I didn't have where to go. What would I do? So I went. So they took us, and I think I was riding with a cattle car, with a train, about around 4 or 5 days. We were sitting in one place there. We didn't get no food. It was that cattle car was so stinky. We had to do our stuff right in that place there for about 4 or 5 days. No drink of water. It was so bad. Then I don't know. The train was going left any place. I mean, we didn't know where it was going, but it was 4 or 5 days we were in the train.
Before let me stop you here, and we'll change tapes, and we'll hear more about the train. Thank you.
Okay.
Where is it? What are you wearing?
That was around December.
Of what year?
December 43 or 44. 44, yeah. When did the war ended? 45? Yeah, it was 44 December, yeah. Yeah, so what we were wearing, we had clothes that time, well, regular clothes, like, but we didn't have more than one clothes, that's it, you know, and we had to cover up with our back, and that's about. And food we didn't take alone, nothing. And we were sitting in the train for 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and they didn't give us no water, no food. And I remember it came when they put us up to the train, everybody had their seat. We were sitting about 80 people. When it came an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later, we started to move in there, around, and we wanted to lay down a little bit. We were one on top of each other. And came in the night time, we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we had to fall asleep, and we were laying on top of each other. And in the morning, we started out again. We were making our place to sit down, try to sit down, that we should have place. But it was very bad. That 4 or 5 days I never forget, because the thirst, and we had to do our things right in there wherever we were, you know. So,
Were you traveling with other people that you knew? Did you know any of the other?
yeah, we were all together. We came, the 300 people, where we were there, we all went into that whole train, you know. So we were 80 people in the cattle car.
So these were all friends.
These were all friends, yeah. So we were after the 4th day or 5th day, we find out in Hot One. The name of that city was Hot One. It was by the border, the Hungarian-Austrian border. And all of a sudden the door opened. They said they want 10 people. So I was glad to get out. I left everything there, whatever I had there, and I jumped off from the train right away, because I was glad to get out there.
Were you standing by the door? Did you have to push your way through people?
We pushed each other. Anybody wanted to get out, so we were pushing each other. So I was one of the 10 people from that train. So I got off from that train. And they took us across the border, about 10 people there. And the name of that small town was Deutschkreuz. Yeah, Deutschkreuz was the name of that small town. And our job was, you know, people who were walking from Budapest to Austria, you know, like my wife was walking. A lot of people, they made them walk from Budapest to Austria, or even further, I don't know, different places, but those people who got sick, they couldn't walk anymore, they put them in a big barn there. It was about 200-300 people there laying there, and that's our job was, whoever died over there, we should bury them. So it was so we had to. They dig us big graves, you know, graves like it was going in about 300-400 people in one grave. Our job was to take out whoever died, to take out those people from where they were laying, and put them in a little carriage-like thing, and we took them out. It was out of town a little bit, and we had to. That's where we throw them in there, and we were burying them. That's what our job. And I tell you, somehow, in my opinion, my luck was that I got that job, because somehow I find things in those people who they find some money or some gold, some things that I find by them, and I was able to trade it in that town where we were with people, and I got some bread from that. That's how I lived there, because they didn't give me no food otherwise. And if the Germans would find out that I took those people, matter of fact, they shot one guy whom I know there, because they find out that they took some money, jewelry or something from them, and they find it out, and they shot him right there and then. If they would find that we do those things, it would be, they would shot us.
And how long did you do this?
That was about, I would say, about 3 months, something like that.
Where did you live there? Were you in barracks?
There, we were in a barn, and also there with cows. You know, it was actually, this was a small town, and they put us up in barns in hay. We slept in the hay where the cows were. So they put us 2 people here, 2 people there, you know, And that's the way we lived. That's the way we slept there. It came in the morning. We had to go out and see who lived, who died, and that's it. They gave us very little food. They gave us. I think they gave one bread for a whole week, and each afternoon they gave us a soup with nothing in it, just the soup in the night time. So when they gave us the bread, I finished the bread right away in one time. I mean, for 1 week they gave us a whole bread. So that was our food, what they gave us.
Do you remember anything special that you happen to have found that you traded for?
Well, it was just little things, you know. But it was there. It was Christian guys, Christian people who took care of the cows and stuff like that. They lived right there in the small town, and that's how I don't remember what I traded, but it was also like little jewelry, watch or stuff like that. Yeah. But if they would find out that I took away, because wherever we find, we had to give it in, you know, for the Germans there. That's what it was. It was so that, in my opinion, that's what I was alive, because for about 3 months I could trade in the stuff, whatever I find there, from those people whom I buried, you know.
How many people do you think you buried?
I think I did at least about 10, 15 each day, because those people were not able to. Once they stopped, they couldn't move. They lay down there. It was just like that. They lay there in the hay, and they were laying. They couldn't eat anymore, even if they got a bread, but they couldn't eat it. So what happened? I took it myself. If the bread was laying there, I took it myself. You know, stuff like this. It was a horrible, miserable life there. I mean, if I could take anything from another guy, I took that. You know, that was the life. It was horrible. But
Are you sure everybody you buried was dead? I mean, were there tests?
there
that were
nobody
done?
tested it. No. If he was didn't move, but we could see it that he was tight. You know, he was frozen.
Rigor mortis.
Yeah, that's it. You know, so that's it. Nobody took care. So that's what had happened then. And that was about 2 or 3 months. And then when the Russian came close to us, it was already, it must to be around February, March, something like that. So the Russian was pretty close to Austria border. Then everybody, they had to go, and they put us to a train. Us who were alive, who were able to move around there, they put us in a train and they took us somewhere. We didn't know where they were going. We were also traveling about 2 or 3 days, and we didn't know where. It was all of a sudden we was in a different town. The name was Zündorf. That was about. We were in the train about 2 or 3 days, and that town was not further than 40 or 50 miles where we were before.
Before we get to Zündorf,
Yeah.
were you the town of Vorstmarty? Is that
No, that was in Budapest.
what is?
Vörösmarty utca, that was the name of the place there where they took us from where we had to report for the. That was the name of in Budapest, the address, you know.
Okay.
And from Vörösmarty utca they took us out to cattle cars to Austria. So that. So then we were about 2 or 3 days in the train, and they took us to a small town where it was Zündorf. I don't know, there we had to get off, because probably the Germans, the Russians, the train couldn't go further somehow, because the Russians were too close. And I got to Zündorf. I remember it was a small town, and there I got sick. I got the fleck typhus. Pretty soon, probably I already was sick even in the train when I was going. I was pretty sick that time already. And they let us off in Zündorf. We were in a big, I was already the same sick then I was buried. I buried the people. I became also, I was right there laying there. I was there for about 6 weeks. About 6 weeks, but I don't know for my life there, nothing. I was laying there. Lies, full of lies. I mean, I didn't know nothing about it. When about, I would say about a week before the Russians came in, then I was able to move already. I was able I knew for myself already that I'm alive. For about 4, 5, 6 weeks, I didn't know I was laying. Nobody took care of me.
What did you eat?
Nothing. I didn't eat nothing. Nobody took care of me at all. I lay there. When I became 6 weeks later, I knew what I was doing. My I was like a bone. I was 90 pounds when the Russian came in. And my legs were full of dirt. Wherever I was laying there, I did dirt under myself, and it was dried up dirt on there. I mean, it was so horrible there. And about a week before the Russian came in, then I started to move around a little bit. I heard already that I heard firing rifles and shots. I knew something was going on there. Matter of fact, I saw already Germans, trucks and everything moving back. They were going back. In fact, I remember one day not trains, but the trucks from the Russians, from the Germans, they were in everywhere where they were. They didn't take care of us anymore. The Germans were, everybody moved out already from the town. There was no Germans already there. Everybody moved on, and we could walk around wherever we want to, because nobody cared about us anymore. So, and all of a sudden, I remember in the night time, I went out and the trucks were there, and I looked into the truck to get food, stuff like. So I opened the truck, and I saw a box there. So I just grabbed that box and I took it in, and I went into the room. And all of a sudden, I saw a German soldier was running after me. So it was a house where it was one door going in and the other door coming out. So I ran into that door, and I saw the German ran into it, and meantime I ran out from the other side there. So otherwise he would have shot me right there. So, but I forgot that in the meantime, they took everybody out already from there, from that town there, when the Russian was pretty close. But I was hiding on the top of the barn and in the hay. About for 4 or 5 days, when the Germans came in and the Russian was pushing them. So at 4 or 5 days, I was hiding in the straw there. And in the night time, that's the time when I went down to look for food.
What was in the box, by the way?
By the way, in the box it was those chicken, you make chicken soup from it. So I don't know, how do you call
Bouillon?
that? Bouillon, yeah. So I had that bouillon chicken for about 2 months after it. But it was so bad. But I made myself. I put in hot water, and I made. That time nobody took care of us anymore because the Russian was so close. Matter of fact, I was able to already go walk around there. Even in the daytime, I was walking around. I remember when I saw the first Russian. They were shooting at the Germans as they were going. They were shooting at the Germans, and they were hollering at me, "Don't walk there because you're going to get shot there." But I didn't care. I was looking for food. So that time I was actually free already, and I was already walking around everywhere. The Germans didn't take care. They were running themselves already. So that's what it was. So once, and then it was also, and I'll never forget that, it was in the daytime already. when the Russian came in there. And for the Russians, they took a machine gun, and where I was laying up there for 4 days up in the barn, the Russians just went, they were looking for Germans. They were shooting there everywhere there before, and I never forget that if I would be up there in the straw there, I would be right there, So I tell you, I mean, it was just plain luck that I'm alive there those days, because I really didn't care. I was going everywhere around. They were shooting each other, and I was in the middle of them. And thank God I didn't get shot.
Did you notice a change in the Germans as the Russians got closer?
No, once the Russians got closer, the Germans didn't care about anything. They were running. They didn't care about it. When they were so close already that they didn't care. They were running away already. The whole town was full of Germans there. It was in Austria. Nobody was. All the Austria Germans went away. And then I already had. I could go into a German house and I could find food there already. Oh, I remember. I'll never forget when the Russian was. They were there already. They were. The war just was going on. I find a small pig, and I cooked them. I cut it up and took the belly out, and I put them in a hot water, and I cooked them, and I ate the whole little pig by myself there. I tell you, I'm lucky that I'm alive, that I didn't die right there. And you would see what I ate. Once I remember 3 chickens, because I could get already. Nobody was there. The Germans went away, so I could find already anything and everything there. 3 chickens I cooked up myself one day. And matter of fact, when the Russians came in, they helped. They ate mine too. Well, I tell you, the Russians were not so good either there, because they didn't know I was Jew. I mean, they didn't care. I mean, they thought that I was German too. I mean, they didn't know I was a Jew. We were going around freely there already. But then they couldn't do nothing with me, because I could hardly walk. I was 90 pounds when the Russian came. But I tell you, in less than 2 months' time, I was back in my almost about to 150 pounds. I ate so much in the first 2 months after that I never forget the ride back when I went back to Hungary. All right, when it was about, I was there a few days when the Russian came in there. I was still there for about a few days. And I organized myself already there that I had plenty to eat already there, because I could get anything and everything there in the small town. I remember I got 2 cows. And
how did you get 2 cows?
I just went into the, the Germans left the cows there. I mean, I just went in and I got it. And I arranged myself that I got a wagon and with 2 cows, and I put in the wagon flowers, chickens, and everything, food that I should have to go back to Hungary. And I had there another guy. It was somehow, I don't know how, a Christian guy. I don't know how he got there, but he found out that I'm a Jew, and therefore he thought that I will be able to save him from the Russians.
Do you remember his name?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember him because it happened something in the way going back to Hungary. So somebody had to, when we started to go out from that town, somebody had to go front of the cows, So that guy was going front of the cows, and I was sitting in the wagon. I couldn't walk, because he was very good for me. So, and in the night time we stopped in a small town, and we ate, we cooked. I had food, everything in the wagon there. So it took us about 3 or 4 days to go to a place. I don't remember the place, but the trains started to go from there up to Budapest. For 4 days we were going. And then all of a sudden the Russian got everybody, we had to go to a place where You couldn't go further. The Russian got us in to a place, and that's where that guy, that Christian guy, he got lost from me because it was Jewish people there who they saw it right away on me that I was a Jew there, so they let us go. But once the Christian guy, we got lost from him. So that's why I never knew about the Christian guy, where he got. So, and then from there, it was a train where we were going. It was about 100 miles to Budapest, to go back to Budapest from that town. And once in a while the train stopped for a day here, so it took us about 3 or 4 days till we got up to Budapest. Oh yeah, I remember I sold the car with a wagon, with everything, whatever it was on the, I sold it for a pair of shoes. A pair of shoes was a big thing those days. The whole thing, I couldn't do nothing with a car anymore. I didn't need it anymore. The whole wagon, I sold it for a pair of shoes. Those days, that's the way it was. You know, everybody was like, it was you know, wartime. It was nothing. I mean, you could get whatever you wanted those days. It was, you know, you could rob a store, you could go into a store, you could, if whatever you find, you could get it. You know, it was really a war those days. So I got to Budapest, and I went back to the same place where I used to live before. And when I got back to Budapest, I find where I lived there, my landlord, you know, I lived there in a room there. I find that woman there who used to, she was also a Jew. And she came back, she was there back before me yet. I don't think they took her out. She was in the Swedish embassy there. That's how she got, they didn't take her out. So I find her there, and I was there for a few days. She freed me, and I got food from her till I was able to walk around. It took me about 2 months. I went back to the bakery. I remember where I used to work there. It was open, the bakery there too. And matter of fact, I couldn't work because it was too, but they were so good to me. They gave me food, whatever I needed, they gave me.
These were non-Jews?
No, that was Jews. Yeah, it was Jews. It was Jews there who got into the Swedish, and they got free when the Germans came, when the Russian came into Budapest. They got free there. So they were there about 2-3 months before us, you know. So, but I didn't have anybody there, so I wanted to go back to my hometown, Bodrog-Keresztúr. So I went back. I wanted to know about my family. I didn't know nothing, who came back or how or what. I didn't know. So I went back to my town, Bodrog-Keresztúr, and there I find out that a cousin of mine in Sarospatak, I had an aunt and an uncle, a cousin of mine came back to Sarospatak. So I went back to Sarospatak, and I stood there for about 1 or 2 weeks. And then we find out that I had cousins, my 2 sisters, no, 1 sister of mine. And the people with whom I used to live in Bodrog-Keresztúr, those cousins, about 4 or 5 of them, they were alive. I find that out. They came back to Bodrog-Keresztúr too, that time. So we had a family there again, you know. We were about, my sister came back, and about 5 cousins again, they came back to Bodrog-Keresztúr. So we were there for about, matter of fact, actually we start again our life there a little bit. We started to farm there a little bit again, you know.
Did you contact your mother at this time, your brother?
No, not yet. It was still the wartime yet. You know, you really couldn't contact my mother yet. But in about 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, when I got home to Bodrog-Keresztúr, when my sister came back, then and my cousins, somehow we I don't remember how, but I think we wrote a letter to my mother to the United States, and we contacted her, but we didn't hear nothing from my mother. Then I find out about my wife, about that she's alive too.
How did you
And
find that out?
how did I find out? Yeah, it was where I lived in Budapest. They lived at the end. They also lived in the same house. Like I said, I met. So, and somehow they got in touch with Bodrog Keresztúr, and they find out, and they told us that she's in Polgár. She went down to Polgár. That my future wife. She was my girlfriend that time. So then, when I find out that she's in Polgár, so I took my bike and I wanted to go see her. And Polgár was from us about, I would say, about 50 kilometers, about 40 miles or so. So I took my bike and I started to go down to her, but I got a flat tire somehow, and it was raining, and I could never made it. I never made it down to Polgár, and somehow I really don't know how it was. I don't remember how I got in touch with her. Then, no, she went up to Budapest. My wife went up to Budapest, and a cousin of mine also went up to Budapest, and she brought her down to that town, to Bodrog Keresztúr, and she came down, and we got married there. It wasn't. She knew that we were in love, and we came together. She didn't have a family. I didn't have a family, and we got married. That was also a nice. How was it? I remember it was 3 weddings that day. It was a sister of mine and a cousin of mine. So we married. It was the religion people was there that you couldn't marry sister and brothers. You couldn't marry the same day. So my sister I got married before the Milche, before 5 o'clock, before the sun went down, and my sister got married after the sun went down. So it means we were able to get married in 3 of us in one day, and we made a nice wedding. Those days it was a wedding wasn't like here. We made a big party there. Somehow my brother-in-law, he got a little calf somehow, and the shochet cut it up, and we made a nice get together like the whole town. Matter of fact, it was about 2 or 3 town Jewish people. We all got together, and we made a nice wedding there. So,
Was there a rabbi?
yeah, it was a rabbi there. Yeah, the rabbi came back also there. Yeah, so, the Keresztúr rabbi was really a big rabbi there. It was a very famous rabbi from Bodrog Keresztúr those days.
And do you remember his name?
Matter of fact, his son is also a rabbi. His son is, he still lives in Brooklyn. He's a rabbi there. What's his name? Berish, I don't remember his second name. Berish, that's all I remember. Because he was the same age than I was. So I remember then we stood there maybe a week or 2 weeks, the most, after we got married in Bodrog Keresztúr. And we went up to Budapest, I think about two cousins and my wife and me. Yeah, we were there, I think, altogether about a week.
Well, I want to hear about that, but we're going to stop and change tapes, and then
Okay.
we'll pick up with the honeymoon.
Okay, yeah, what a honeymoon.
Your honeymoon, and you were remembering
Yeah.
something that you
Yeah,
talked about.
I came back. I remember one really bad thing about it. I have to say, I have to come back to it. I remember one day when we went out to after the bombing.
Where are you at this time?
In Budapest. I was in Vörösmarty, and we went out to after the bombing, and we passed the river Duna. Budapest was running a river Duna, and as we were walking, they were taking us to a place there, and all of a sudden we hear really machine gun shots there, and as we were going that direction, I saw that it was about 20 Jewish guys there, right by the Duna River, and they were just gunning them down there, the Germans there. And matter of fact, it wasn't just Germans; it was Hungarian soldiers there too with them together, and they just fell in right into the river there. So I had to come back to say that because those things happened, and it wasn't just, it happened so many things, so many times what we heard about it there, but that's the way it was those days.
Are there any other eyewitness accounts that you can think of that you'd like to?
I'm sure it would come back, but somehow, I don't know. I saw a lot of things there that it was really,
Who was worse, the Hungarians or the Germans?
Well, the Germans was worse when they took them out to Germany and they burned all those people there. But the Hungarians helped them, and they were just as bad. The Hungarians were just as bad than the Germans because they did whatever they told them to do, and they helped them. If they could kill a Jew, they were killing a Jew too, just like the Germans. That's the way it was there. When I went back to Hungary after the war, I tell you something. I felt so bad. I wanted to get out as fast as I could, because I felt so bad there that I would never go back again there anymore. Because you see those towns there, where the Jewish people, they lived there. So I mean, really, they were such a good Jew people there. They didn't do no harm, like my uncles, my everything, all those families. They were so good people there, and they just they killed them all. For what? It was so miserable. And you go back there and you don't see those people there. You see the houses there, and it's other people live there. I remember the shul there when I went back there. It was a store there full of horses. They made a horse stall from the temple there. I mean, how could you live there? I mean, it was very miserable to go back there. Never again. I would never go back there again.
They made a livery or a tack store? Is that what saddles and?
No, it was horses, a stall where the horses were staying. They made a horse stall.
Oh, a stall?
A stall, yeah.
Oh.
That's what it was, about 20, 30 horses. They made a stall from the shul, but it was a shul over there.
This is the shul where you were bar mitzvah?
This is the shul where I was bar mitzvah, where we used to go every day to shul there, and in those houses where the Jewish people lived there. I mean, you just couldn't. You can imagine when we went back to see that those goyim who lived there, they took it over, everything there. Not one Jew from the 150 families, not one Jew lives there. All were gone except maybe, I would say, if it was 20, 30 young people who came back from Germany. The rest of them, they all died there in Germany. So it was really a miserable thinking, just to think of it, but you gotta live, you forget about those things because you push it away from your mind. Because then you wouldn't want to live. You couldn't live that way if you would have it in your mind. So in my opinion, I don't think of it. Even for my kids, somehow I don't want to say anything because they feel bad what I went through with it. So I don't want to make them feel bad. And I don't think of it. I live my life the way it is now, and thank God I have a normal life now and a good life. You want to come back to my going from Bodrog Keresztül when we left from Bodrog Keresztül. we went up to Budapest. Actually, that was our honeymoon. We were there in Budapest a few days. We had to report. We wanted to get out from Hungary because they closed the borders there, and then we wouldn't be able to get out. So we had to report to some kind of a Jewish outfit there. It was, I know, it was from Israel actually. It was, they made us, we were going, they had to go that we were not be able to talk Hungarian there. We were all somehow made believe that we were Israelis, and we got stuck in the wartime, and we want to go back to Israel. That's the only way we were able to get out from Hungary, because it was almost closed, the borders. So we went also in an open cattle car. Well, actually it was a cattle car, but it was open cattle cars. So we didn't have no money, so we just went on the train, and that's the way we went to through Yugoslavia and to Italy. It took us, I think, 4 or 5 days or so. Yeah. I remember it was winter time, it was snowing there, but we felt good, we were free. You know, it was a different story than the first time when we went in those cattle cars. We were married already. Oh yeah, I forgot about our marriage. I mean, yeah, I said the story, but I talked about the marriage. So it took about 4 or 5 days. So we got into a camp also there in Italy. It was an English camp. Yeah, the English, it was, I think, highest. It was an English camp, yeah. So we were there. It was funny. It was happening a lot of funny things there, because when we arrived there, what was it? I remember it was, they put us, somehow it was like that. They were asking us if we have fleas or we have, so I said, I remember when we arrived there, I said that me and my wife, we are itching. So I remember it, and somehow they took us into a hospital there, and it was, it was a funny thing there. My wife was so bad at me that time that I wasn't itching at all, but we were itching a little bit, so they took us out in the hospital there, and they kept us for about 2 or 3 days there, and we had a good life there in Italy.
Where in Italy were you?
It was in Turin, Grugliasco. It was a small town, Grugliasco. It used to be, I think it was a crazy house before. It was big buildings there. So we were there about, we were in big rooms. It used to be a hospital there, a crazy hospital. It was big rooms. It was, I think we were about 20 couples in each room. We were laying, most of them, we were young married couples, and we had our bed, about 20 couples, we were in one room there. But we had a lot of fun. We were young. We didn't have much to eat, but I went to work in the kitchen a little bit, and
what did you do in the kitchen?
I was cooking, you know.
Were you baking or?
No, not baking. I helped cook. That was a regular cook already. We had what to eat. We didn't have good stuff. I remember we got bloodwurst, and I loved that in the cans. And somehow my wife could never touch it. I mean, she was already pregnant that time, and she could never touch it. But I think she went to doctor's visit there. I think the doctor gave her some special treatment, special lunches that she was able to. It wasn't bad. We were young, and we were happy those days. And so we lived there for about 8 months. That was around, we got married February the 19th. That was around March when we got there, and till November, something like that. how was it? We wanted to come out to the United States because my mother was here. Oh, I had the papers already to come here because before the war my mother wanted to bring me out. And that's why I was able to get out. I think we were the first ones who came out from the camp to the United States. It was around December, yeah, December, and that was funny too. My wife, she was ready to give birth for the baby, you know. We started to go out, we had to go to Genoa for the boat, and it was the first, she had already pain a little bit a day before, but she wanted to make the boat. But in the night time, when we started to go out to the station, I had to take her into the hospital because she had already bad pain. So we took her into the hospital. The doctor says you can't go further anymore because you're going to give birth. But I had to go to Genoa to report that we can't go. So I left my wife there and I went down to Genoa myself, and I reported that we can't go. So they said that we will be able to go probably in about a month time after that. So I went back. I had my girl born there.
And what was her name?
Margie Kramer. She was born there, and then thank God a healthy baby. So she was there for a few days in the hospital, and we had to go back to the camp. We were there. That time I remember already they gave us a separate room because we had a baby, so we had our own little separate room. So, but we didn't have no stove there. It was cold winter time. So I remember we had a night table, an iron night table. I made a stove from that iron night table. And that's where I had some wood, and I made a stove, and that's how we kept warm there. I remember once they checked out, they came to check about, and they saw that it was pretty warm there. How come it's so warm there? I covered up, and when I find out they're going to come and check it out, I shut the fire and I covered it up there. So we had a lot of fun there anyway. I mean, even though that it was fun. So in about a month later, we went out. We went to Genoa. The baby was about 4 weeks old, and we went to Genoa and we took the boat. I remember we had a very bad ride. We were very sick. I was so sick. Oh, we were so sick, and we had miserable ride. It took us about 9 days to come to the United States. We were very sick, so seasick, you know. If I could get off from the boat, I would have get off because we were so sick. So
when did you finally arrive in this country?
It was January the 8th, I think. Yeah, it was the 8th.
Did you hook up with your mother?
Yeah. Well, I forgot. It was my mother. Once she wrote us a letter to Hungary. We were already married. Because when I wrote a letter to my mother that we are alive and I have a girlfriend, she said, don't get married there, and because it's very hard to come out with your wife. So, but it was too late already. We got married already. Anyway, my mother met us there with my sister and also I think an uncle of my wife. And we went to my mother's house. We lived there for about 6 or 8 months.
And where was this?
That was in Brooklyn, New York. In Brooklyn, we lived there. It wasn't easy. It was very bad because it was a very small apartment there. And we had the baby already. My sister lived there. It was one bedroom apartment. But I got a job right away. I had so we started to make a nice living there. I was a baker, and then I find a bungalow there about 8 months later, and we started out to live there. It was a nice living. We were glad that we came out to the United States. It was wonderful.
Do you have any children besides?
Yeah, my other daughter was born also about 6 years after. She was, oh, yes, she was born in Brooklyn, about 6.5 years. Her name is Harriet. And now I have, they got married, both of them. Oh yeah, we came out, we lived there in Brooklyn for about 17, 18 years. And then we moved out to Los Angeles. We had to move out because my daughter, my Margie, she has a little, she had problem with her blood circulation. In the cold weather, the blood didn't circulate good. Matter of fact, even now, if it gets a little cold, her hand gets all white. So I came out by myself first here. I was out here I came to Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for about 2 months. I find a job. I find a place where to live, a nice apartment. And we came, 2 months later, they came out also. And we lived happily after. I have 2 grandchildren. From my one daughter and my other daughter have another 2 grandchildren.
All right.
So,
Well, let's stop the tape here and let's meet your wife, your other half.
okay, all right.
Thank you. Joseph, can you introduce us to this woman on your left?
This is my woman, that's my wife and my beloved one.
And what is her name?
Her name is Edith Kramer. And I am married with her, it's going to be February the 19th, 50 years. This coming February the 19th, and happily married. And we have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren together, happily married.
All right.
That's my wife.
Edith, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yes, I would like to say something. I think it's very important. First of all, how grateful I am to Mr. Spielberg for giving us this opportunity and all the other Holocaust survivors that we could tell our story, because this is very, very important. And all the Gentiles and the Jews and the next generation to come should listen and hear what we have to say, because little by little they are dying, and we are one of the young ones, and the older ones already are gone. And once we are not here, there's nobody to tell about us or what happened, and there are plenty of people who this day they don't believe in anything, that this thing happened, that they should know that it should never ever be repeated. God forbid that it could happen even in the United States. We never believed in Europe that something like this possible, but it did. And we went through it, and that's all I just wanted to say. Thanks again. Thank
And
you,
you gave
very much.
Did you give your own testimony?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
And I was very happy to do it. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you. Joseph, it's your tape. Do you have any final thoughts before we look at some pictures that you have on how you survived, or what do you attribute this to? Or
Well, I don't know, we survived because I feel that because we were young and strong. I was 19, 20, 21, and if I would be older, or if it would be a little bit later, 2 months or 3 months, if it would be longer, the war, if the Russian wouldn't come in 2 months later, I wouldn't survive. I would die right there, because I was already, it was finishing me too, just like the rest of them who died there. So I was just plain lucky that I was strong, I was young. That's how I survived. Thank God for it. That's all what I could say.
thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, thank you.
Thank you for you.
This is my father. He died when I was about 5.5 years old. I don't remember him.
What is his name?
His name is Isidor Kramer.
Do you know where this picture was taken?
This picture was taken in Miskolc, probably
In what country?
in Hungary.
And how did you come to have this picture?
My mother had this picture when we came out to this country. She had it.
Okay.
This is my mother. Her name is Beata Taub, Beata Kramer. And this picture was taken probably around 1947.
And where was it taken?
This was taken in Brooklyn, New York. This is my grandmother. Her name is Toby Taub. This is the greatest woman in this world. She was the best. I tell you, she was the best mother that I could have. She brought 4 children up. She was about 75 years old. I tell you, she was the greatest. This picture was taken in Brooklyn. She died when she was probably around 78, 80 years old.
And you know when this picture was taken?
No, I don't know this when it was taken. No, it was taken in Bodrokerestur. I know that. Yeah.
Joseph, could you clarify this? When did your grandmother pass away? Do you remember?
I don't remember when she passed away. No, it must to be in the 74. Matter of fact, when I went to learn the bakery. No, not 74. Oh no, it was. Well, I don't remember it, but she passed away in Bodrokerestur.
In what country?
In Hungary. That's where she passed away.
Was it before the war?
Yeah, it was about, I would say about 5 years before the war, yeah. That's when she passed away, yeah.
Thank you.
This picture is my brother and 2 sisters. From the left is my brother.
What is his name?
His name is Zoltan Kramer. And who's sitting there is my older sister. Her name is Lillian Sherman. And my other sister, her name is Margaret Kramer. And the top with the hat, that's me, Joe Kramer. I must be about 12 years old at that time.
So this picture was taken in what year?
This picture was taken around 24, about 36.
And where was it taken?
In Bodrokerestur in Hungary.
And how did you get this picture?
Also, my mother had this picture when we came out to the United States. I'm starting from the left bottom. That's my brother. My brother's name is Zoltan Kramer. That is my cousin in the bottom there, with whom I was brought up together. Her name is Fagu Friedman. Then from the left, standing with a cap on, that's me, Joe Kramer. Then is my sister, my older sister, Lillian Kramer. And then my younger sister, Margie Friedman. Then it's my grandmother, Toby Taub. And then it's Zifru Friedman. Then from the top left, that woman is Cyril Friedman, Adele Friedman, and Rivka Friedman. They were all my cousins. We were brought up together after my father died. That's where we were brought up with those kids.
And do you know the baby's name?
No, I don't know the baby's name. No, that was her, that cousin of mine, her daughter.
Now, do you remember when this picture might have been taken?
This picture must to be taken. I must to be about 8 years old. Must to be about 32.
And
1932.
in what city and what
in
country?
Bodrokerestur in Hungary it was taken. Yeah.
And how did you get this picture?
Also, this picture my cousins, one of those cousins gave it to me, so I made a duplicate from it. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is our wedding picture. From my left is my brother-in-law. His name is Vilmos Friedman, and my sister Margie Friedman. That's my wife, my dear wife. Her name is Edith Kramer, and me to the right, that's Joe Kramer. From the top left, I don't know his name, and the woman with the cap, she's Itza Haar, and her husband Patyuhar. And then is my cousin Yotzo Taub. And that picture was taken on 46 February in Tokaj, Hungary.
And what was the date in February?
February the 19th was the wedding, but the picture was taken a week later.
And you don't know the man on the left?
He was a guest, and he just got into the picture. Actually, he was a cousin of one of the guy there.
He was a cousin
the
of
woman
my
is Joe's
cousin's
cousin,
husband.
and the husband's cousin.
Yeah, he was a cousin of my husband. But our picture was, because we didn't have no camera there on our wedding, so we got dressed in our wedding gown. We got dressed and we went to a different city, to Tokyo, and they took our regular wedding pictures there.
Did you wear the same clothes?
Yes, we wore the same clothes as we got dressed just like if it would be the wedding there.
Thank you.